in the affirmative. Mike Landers. Eric Mitchell. Eric is not in attendance at this point. Staff, when I call your name, can you folks mute your phone? I'm hearing a whole bunch of stuff and not able to hear when somebody responds. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. David Lane?
David Lane is here. Thank you.
Peter Korpusik?
Peter Korpusik is present. Did you hear me, Dave? Can you hear me?
Now I hear
Yes,
you.
I heard you, Peter. Bill, did you hear Peter?
Not the first time. Oh, Peter I heard. I have not heard Clint yet that I know of.
Clint?
Are you on?
Yeah, I didn't hear my name get called. Yeah, Clint Allen is present.
Okay, thank you. Mark Piccarini?
He is not present yet, Bill.
Okay. Stephanie? But I didn't hear a response.
Stephanie, go ahead.
She may have muted herself and not come back, but I know Stephanie is here. Representative from Danvers Cable Access TV. Representative from Danvers Cable Access. Okay. Anticipated speakers are all members we've called previously, so I'm going to move to the next step on the script for remotely conducted open meetings. This is the introduction to the remote meeting. Good morning. This open meeting of the Municipal Light Board, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public meetings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Municipal Light Board is convening remotely via the WebEx app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Meeting materials. All supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I note otherwise. Meeting business ground rules. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I, as the chairman, will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the list of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly in any way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in colloquy with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. For items with public comment, we have established an email address for public comment, which is publiccomments@danversmass.gov. This email is also posted with the agenda and shown online with the streaming of this meeting. A resident will email comments and they will be provided, read out loud, after staff has confirmed their name and address. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. Okay, that completes the script for the start of a public meeting held under these conditions, the emergency order of the Commonwealth. The next item on the agenda is to receive public comments. I will ask if there are any now, and then I will, Stephanie, please remind me at the end of the meeting to ask again in case any come in during the meeting. So, agenda item number 2, receive public comments. Clint, I believe you were monitoring for those last meetings.
That is correct, Bill. So far, we have not received any public comments.
Okay, in case I forget, please remind me after agenda item 7, David speaks, and prior to board members' closing comments to check again. Okay?
Will do.
All righty, thank you, Clint. All right, this is Bill. The next item on the agenda is to accept the minutes from the June 9th meeting. Do I hear a motion to accept those minutes?
So moved. So moved.
Mike moves, Bill seconds. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor, this is a roll call vote. Mike?
Yay.
And Bill, yay. Eric still not on?
No, Bill, Eric has joined the meeting now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Eric.
Yes,
Okay.
okay. Eric, do you have any comments on the minutes?
No, the minutes were fine as I accept them as presented.
Okay, so you vote yes to accept. All right.
Correct.
So the roll call vote is unanimous to accept the minutes of the meeting. Next on the agenda is the financials, and Peter Korpusik will present those. Peter?
Peter Kapusik, DPW Business Manager here. Mr. Chairman, today we're looking at the June 30th, 2020 financial statements of Danvers Electric Division. If we start at the top and we examine our revenues for the first half of the year, we can see that our revenues at this point in time are down about 2%, which, given the fact that, we had COVID and a lot of businesses were closed, is actually we're doing pretty well in that regard. And if we look at domestic sales, the fourth line down from the top, we can see that our domestic or residential sales is up almost 6%. And that's, because a lot of people were home who would normally be at work. So in general, our sales for this time frame have been very good. If we go down to the second part of the sheet with the other revenues, the thing that I would point out that's a little bit different this particular time, if we go down to line 450, unused customer discounts, we can see that number is up by almost $100,000 or 18%. That's because during this pandemic, we were not, in fact, charging back the discount for those people who had a problem paying. So that reduced our income for this time period by $100,000. But it did, in fact, help those people were having difficulty paying, and right off the bat, just even processing the payments for us was a bit of an issue. We have a contractor that, we have the lockbox, the envelope we send out to every customer every month. The lockbox contractor had an issue at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, and we were waiting several weeks for some money, but we got all caught up. And anyway, the good news is nobody was penalized during this time frame because of something that they perhaps had no control over. If we go to the bottom part of our thing, we look at the power costs. Our power costs are in fact down about 7%, which is a good thing, and that kind of mirrors up with our sales being down. So we sold less, but therefore we had to buy less. If we look at the expenses, the one thing that's different from last year at this point in time is if we go to page 2 and we go 2/3 of the way down and we look at account 926, which is employee pension and benefits. That's down considerably this year from last year. And last year, as we've spoken about several times, that's booking GASB 68 last year, where we had to bring the total net pension liability onto the books of town of Danvers. So what we're back this year reflects the new normal, putting us in compliance with the accounting rules. So at this point in time, our profit, it looks good. We've done well so far, so we're looking fine there. The next thing that I would go to would be, I would skip to page 5. And if we look at customer accounts receivable, so it's fine that we're selling the electricity and that people are using it, and that's great. Now we have to be concerned that we're going to be able to collect those funds, given that, a lot of people could be in financial difficulty or hardship through no fault of their own. And we can see that our accounts receivable at this point in time is in fact up by almost $400,000 or 13%. Now, at the beginning of the pandemic, Governor Baker, through the Department of Public Utilities, who regulates customer shutoffs and rates, issued a moratorium prohibiting us from doing collections. So not that we would in such a time, but we were not allowed to, even if we did. So, and on July 31st, prohibiting of us shutting people off has been extended for businesses through the end of August, and for our residential customers through November 15th, 2020. Now, November 15th, 2020, as we've probably discussed before, isn't just a random date. That's when, during the winter time, we kind of end up in a moratorium anyway, where people who have electric heat can't be shut off. We can shut people off after November 15th, but the bar is a lot higher given the weather conditions. So, yes, we're selling electricity. Yes, it looks good on the bottom line. We do anticipate that there could be some issues that we're going to run into with our customers, and we'll work through those on a case-by-case basis as they arrive. Hopefully it may be more of a timing issue where it will take us longer to get our money, but that is something that's different, and we need to pay attention to at this point in time, a little bit differently than before. Another issue that comes up all the time is if we go back to page 4, we've got our cash accounts, and we've got other fund stabilization and our maintenance cash. In between those two accounts, we've got $15.5 million, which is down $4 million from the same period last time. Now, a big part of that reason for the difference is last year we made a contribution to the pension fund to prepay our liability so that we wouldn't, we'd be able to have lower costs going forward and just pay every year for the cost of the pension that was incurred during every annual period. If we go back to page 5 and we look at depreciation fund cash, which is right in the middle account 126. That is in fact $500,000 higher. And between all of our cash accounts, we've got $18.5 million at this point in time. And during the pandemic, because we have this amount of cash, I realize there's been concern about it, but there was never a concern about us being able to pay for our power, which is what, we have to do so that we can send it to our customers. And even though our customers may be purchasing less and may be having a difficult time paying us, we are pretty confident that we won't have any problem paying for the product and delivering it to our customers going forward. So we're at this point in time, Mr. Chairman, we have a profit that looks good. Our receivables are up, but doesn't look like it's going to be crushing, although it needs to be paid attention to. And we are liquid so that we will be able to, based on what we're seeing now, pay for our product and provide the electricity needed to our customer. That would be it.
Okay, thank you, Peter. I'll now ask the other board members if they have any comments or questions on the financial report. Mike?
No questions. It seems, I'm glad. I know, there was a lot of concerns in regards to how receipts would work out with the business customers being offline, but it seems as though we're really on a good pace to be able to survive this as an entity, and that's great news. And I applaud the work of everybody throughout this whole process. So other than that, nope, I'm good to go.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Eric, do you have any comments or questions for Peter?
No questions. I think I exhausted most of those in the last meeting, and I think we're still on track from when we had that conversation.
Okay, this is Bill again. Thank you, Eric. Peter, I have just one question for you. In looking through the financials prior to the meeting, one thing I noticed on page 5, the receivables, receivables from the municipal are the highest, virtually 160%, up 60% from last year. Is that a concern that we're not being paid by the town?
Absolutely not.
No
Absolutely
concern.
not. No, that's not a concern at all, Mr. Chairman. We have, up through June, we were still all remote pretty much. The division had to go from 2 laptops at home to, we've got everybody in the business division now has a laptop, and we've worked it out so that we can in fact have everybody being productive at home. So it's a timing issue. The town sometimes can get behind. We if we're going to have to process something and put something behind, we process ourselves last and we get our payments out to our private contractors first. So no, we don't have any worry about that. The town has the money and the town will be paying us. It's just we put them at the bottom and pick up those payments last.
Okay. Very good, Peter. Thank you. All right. Do I now hear a motion to accept the financials from either Mike or Eric?
So moved.
Thank you, Mike. Do I hear a second?
Seconded.
Thank you, Eric. If there's no further discussion, all those are in favor of accepting the financials by roll call vote. Mike?
Yay.
Eric?
Things with sand in it.
Yay.
Eric, you said yes?
Yes, that's a yes.
Okay, and this is Bill. I vote yes. The motion to accept the financials passes unanimously. Next agenda item is the PP and FA to be presented by Clint Allen. Clint?
Good morning, everybody. This is Clint Allen, Assistant Utility Director for the Electric Division. So when assessing the September purchase power and fuel adjustment charge recommendation for this year, we've been looking at a couple factors, primarily our power supply. And then as Peter just kind of touched on, the power supply revenue that we're actually being able to recover from the customers. A little bit of good news. is the natural gas market has continued to stay well below the projections from the beginning of the year. And a byproduct of that is we were able to negotiate our existing bilateral energy contract with NextEra for the remainder of the year, effective May 1st. So they actually agreed to bring our locked-in price of $41 a megawatt hour down to about 28, or about 35%. And that, on an overall basis for the power supply portfolio, gives us about a 2% savings for the year, which equates to about roughly $500,000. So if you remember the June meeting, the over-under fund, it had us looked like we were landing somewhere around the $100,000 mark. With that rate relief that we were able to secure, we are now looking more around the $700,000, which is considerably, I would say, makes us all feel a little bit better. And then, as Peter just mentioned, the revenues, we are keeping a very close eye on that. We originally had projected, if you want to actually look at that chart on page 2. So I left that yellow line on from last meeting. That was the original retail revenue forecast from the beginning of the year. And then you can see in April is where we took our biggest hit. That's kind of the faded orange bar was the original forecast, and then our actual was, considerably less, about a few $100,000 less. And we retweaked the forecast based on, what Energy New England was recommending for what they thought was going to be the rate impact because of COVID. That's where you can see the orange bars for May, June, July all kind of come down. But even with that, the power supply actual costs have also been down. And with the rate relief, we're actually at a pretty good spot as of the end of June. The over-under fund is right around 685, and we are anticipating that it will essentially remain stable for the rest of the year. So the recommendation would be then to keep the rates, the current rates in place. For residential, that would be 5.669 cents per kilowatt hour, and all of the classes would be 5.922 per kilowatt hour. So then if we turn to the last page, for the roughly an average residential bill, 750 kilowatt hours per month, they would be looking at about a stable, as it has been pretty much the whole year, 105.97, which is still, I actually think National Grid is higher than, I just got my bill. I think the National Grid's actually higher than that now, but so we're still on the right side of the bar chart. We're still towards the bottom. So with that, that's my recommendation. I'll take any questions if there are any.
Okay, this is Bill. Thank you, Clint. We'll go by, I'll call each board member and ask if they have any comments. Mike, do you have any comments or questions for Clint?
Nope, that looks good. Thank you, Clint.
Thank you, Mike. Eric?
My only comment, it's always great to have no rate increase. Thank you.
Okay, Clint, this is Bill again. I have just one question. I noticed on the first page, would somebody mute their phone? There's background noise coming through. Clint, I noticed on both the charts on page 1 that there's a bubble in April, which kind of surprised me. What is that phenomena caused by?
Well, so in this case, April was, especially for the revenue, that was the first full month that we've realized the shutdown and the phase 1 of the COVID pandemic. And that was, again, that was where we saw our biggest loss in power supply revenue of about 16% of what we'd anticipated to collect.
Yeah, Clint, I'm sorry. Let me interrupt just a sec. My question was on the forecast. It rises for both the kilowatt hours and the revenue. And obviously, due to COVID, it didn't happen. I'm curious as to what drives the forecast. Again, somebody's got a lot of background noise. Clint?
Oh yeah, Bill. So in these charts, these are actually they're a smooth, like a monthly average. So they look, if you looked at the actual daily forecast, it's, extremely jagged. So these are kind of smoothed a little bit, but we just had forecasted it was going to be a milder March than normal. And going into the shoulder months, March, April, May, typically, we see less retail sales and we see less power consumption.
Okay, thank you. All right, if there's no further discussion, do I hear a motion to accept the PPFA and the recommendation to approve it?
So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Eric. I assume I got those down.
It's the reverse for the record.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. If there is no further discussion, we'll do the roll call vote. Mike?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
And this is Bill. I vote yes. The motion to accept the report on purchase power and fuel adjustment and to approve maintaining it through the end of the year passes unanimously. Okay, that completes agenda item 5. We're now on to agenda item 6, the engineering report. Mark Piccarini, are you in now?
How's everybody doing? How is everybody?
Hi, Mark.
Hey, how you doing? So, just to start off with this storm, I generally like to kind of discuss that. I know that's sort of a topic of interest a lot of times. We did very well regarding Tropical Storm Isaias as it came by. We only had about 14 trouble calls. 9 of them were relating to tree limb type of calls. We had about a dozen or so customer outages, and that all ranged in the realm of about a 3-hour period. So all in all, I think we did very well. And I kind of wanted to start with that. I know that was always a topic of interest, especially with Stan. And I just wanted to start with that. I don't know if anybody had any questions or anything relating with that before I jump into just kind of going over a couple quick project specifics. No? Okay. So I'm glad to hear that everybody else obviously held up very well then. So with regards to our station control house, we're still in the process of getting the designer selection aspect of that project going. We're in the process of doing a basically like a bid-based RFQ. And what happened was that is still underway because we ended up having to sort of put that on the back burner in a sense, because we were in the process of reconductoring some of our the Endicott West Circuit. And in doing so, we noticed that the Danvers Port substation had a partially collapsed duct for the getaways. So that really actually took priority. And then, so what happened was we had to take that particular aspect of the job, look at it. We actually put a bid out in place, which is presently out right now. We are expecting to get some comments, and we're expecting the return of the bids mid-September, so we can actually proceed with that. That is one of those things where, again, with a partially collapsed duct, there was no apparent pressure really on the conductors themselves, but you just never know with one of those things. So it's one of those things where you really want to make sure that you make that a priority. And when I say it's the getaways are the conductors that are coming right out of the cubicle into that first manhole. So it's basically every single circuit that we have coming out of the Danvers Port substation, which is the one located by Town Fair Tire. So we're in the process of getting that underway. And then once we kind of get that situated, we're going to really jump back into the control house upgrade for the designer selection aspect of the bid. Regarding Northland Sub, we've actually made some good headway with that particular project. I actually have a draft on hand with regards to the easement and as well as a restoration agreement. So again, that was a project that we've been working on, trying to get a new substation in place. We actually have a great plan in place. We've been working with some of the executives for Liberty Tree Mall. We've been, very helpful. At least Tim Fox, especially as of lately, has been very helpful. And it's been a long process. And they've kind of drafted up an agreement where it looks like they're going to allow us to obtain an easement in that particular land so we can build a substation right next to our existing one. And in return, they just want us to basically rebuilt a partial area of the parking lot that we're going to be taking over, which is in the vegetated area. So making some good headway on that, which is I'm very happy about. It's been a long time coming. Regarding the Water Street project, I know it was a big reconductoring project. All the conductors are pulled in. Right now, we're presently just looking to get everything tied in basically at this point. And then we can start doing some of the cutovers, and then we can start, eliminating some of the old existing cable there. So that's a good project. Again, with the AB team rotation going on, we're doing plenty of small commercial projects. We're doing plenty of residential type projects. We're also in the process of reconductoring and replacing some poles, as well as some, as well as reconductoring and fixing up around Ferncroft substation. So what we're trying to do is revamp the way that feed goes into Ferncroft substation. And we're trying to move that pole line across the street because there's actually, we were looking to do this in anticipation of basically the permanent generator possibly. And in general, it's actually a good thing to do because we actually have a piece of underground cable that basically siphons down and rises back up right in front of the station. And it's an old cable. It's basically a weak point on that circuit. So that's something that we want to be able to, revamp, reconductor, and make that more robust circuit. So that's underway. We're also in the process of going through a NERC audit right now on the operations and planning. It's every 6 years. So that's been very time consuming. We just made our original submittals basically a couple weeks back. And this is from a time frame of July 2014 to July 2020. So that's going very well. We've done this before in the past. We've never had any issues. Generally, at best, they usually give you some sort of feedback on comments, but we are compliant. We do a great job from a maintenance standpoint. So we've never had an issue in the past, and I don't anticipate anything else in the future. So everything else, again, is moving along very well, based obviously on the circumstances of the situation. And we're just going to continue to plug away. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, this is Bill. Thank you, Mark. Again, we'll go by roll call for questions and comments. Mike, do you have any questions or comments for Mark?
Nope, that sounds great. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mike. Eric?
Just no questions, just appreciate all that work that's going on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Mark, I would agree. It sounds like we're functioning quite well in spite of the COVID situation. Thank you for that report.
Absolutely, thank you.
I don't believe we need a motion to accept the engineering report, do we?
No, we do not, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, David. All right, the next agenda item is David, the utility director, will provide an update on various items of interest.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we will start out, we've mentioned a couple times the AB rotation, which has us both the office administrative staffs, the business office, and the line crew and tech services and engineering. So essentially all staff, we have half the staff in on the A week, then the second half of the staff comes in on the B week. At this time, we plan to keep that rotation going through September 8th. That's the Tuesday after Labor Day. Of course, we're going to have to evaluate that and see if the 8th will work, and we'll do that in conjunction with the town manager and the rest of the town services. During this period right now, we have put an emphasis, and I've got to credit all staff on really working to maintain customer service. Everybody's going out of their way to return emails, calls, find a way so that whatever service we need to provide to our customers, we're doing it. Even if they have to leave their payment on the bottom step in the business office, someone will run out and get it from them, whatever it takes. We also are doing appointments with the public if absolutely necessary. If we really need to meet with a staff person, we'll schedule a meeting. We have a place on Borough Street that's separate from the offices, and we'll meet with people. Last week, we did sit down and take a look at the safety precautions in place and whether or not we could get the line crews or tech services back to full-time now. After meeting with the assistant town manager and the health director, at this time, it's just not safe to do it, and it's not worth the risk. We'd like to get more work done right now. However, it's just not worth the risk of losing the whole line crew or the whole tech services crew for 14 days. Peabody, Marblehead Electric Light has already gone through a problem where they lost the whole crew. So right now we're going to stay as is through September 8th. As you can see from Mark's report, we're plugging away. Everyone's staying busy on the operations side, and Peter's staff, and I got to commend them on really working hard at customer service. We have continued on a number of personnel items that were made a lot of progress on. One is replacing Jeff King, our line worker supervisor. We've completed both a preliminary and a final round of interviews. So we have it down to just a couple, actually, I think it's down to really two finalists that we've met with the town manager and myself with yesterday. So we'll be getting a decision on the line worker supervisor very shortly. Very pleased on the caliber of the in-house employees that were eligible for this job and put in for this job, both their training, their professionalism. So it's great to be able to promote someone from in-house into this job, and that will help Danvers because all of our top candidates have a good understanding of Danvers and familiarity. The other good news is that you may have seen we've advertised, and now we've received and reviewed applications for the assistant business manager position. Peter and myself and other staff have gone through the applications. We have a preliminary list of finalists, or actually not finalists, a preliminary list that are going to be interviewed. And that's been set up with Peter, HR, and also we have the business manager from Peabody Municipal Electric is going to sit in on that interview committee. So those interviews are being scheduled right now. We're very excited about that and looking to fill that important position, and no one's more anxious for that than Mr. Kapusik himself to get a new assistant. Clint, Mark and staff and Peter have made excellent progress on the cost of service study. A review of that study has come back. They've had 2 meetings with staff already. Right now, the first study did come back with all of the decreases in sales that we saw during the budget season, that we saw at the beginning of the COVID. That sent up a lot of signals, and we actually went back to them with some information about, even this summer, let's look at this summer sales with some weather. We're getting good sales now because the decrease in sales, as expected, showed we're going to need more rate increases in the future if we want to cover costs. And the recommendation is coming through strongly for us to really look at the base rate and base charge. Right now, as you guys know, we have a minimum charge that we just put in a little while ago. We don't have really just a base charge. It's been recommended before. Our customers don't really like the idea of a base charge, so it's going to be coming back. I'm just putting that out as a coming attraction right now, that the accountants have said it to us, the cost service has said it, is that in declining sales, it's good business practice to put a base charge in so that we know we're going to be able to cover our costs, no matter how much we sell. So that's going to be a real subject of debate, and we'll have to, and that'll be coming. So we really are looking, Peter and Clint are looking as a presentation of the cost of service study, presentation to this board this fall. The mass meter changeout, actually I reported to the Board of Selectmen as far as one of their capital review. That's a program that we had to put on hold when we lost the staff back in March. Right now, we're just changing out the meters that are failing each week. And a big part of that is not only the crew to go out and change the meter in the house, but it's the office staff that we need to make the changes in the office on the new meters, and then to also double check and make sure that meter's operating correctly. We have limits on how many staff we can put in the offices, who's working. and we weren't set up to do this information at home. We are working to try to set that up now. As we talk, hopefully we'll get back to the mass meter change out this fall. However, right now and for the next month anyways, we're looking at just doing the ones that are failing. We do have the new meters in stock. They're here. We just need to get a staffing plan to put it together. On the power contract side, I did want Clint to talk quickly. He did talk about, let's not go over the renegotiation with NextEra on that bilateral agreement. That agreement, we did an extensive negotiation with NextEra on that to extend our contract. And then one of the good bonuses at the end of that negotiation was to get us to be able to take advantage of the lower prices right now for the remainder of 2020. That was a great deal. We all know natural gas prices are low right now. We grabbed it and got a great deal with NextEra for that. However, we also have a new renewable contract that I just wanted Clint to talk about briefly.
Sure, Dave. Yeah, the other one that we were working on is it's the Desri. It's a gravel pit solar project with Energy New England kind of put the deal together. Danvers is, ultimately there was 14 participants. It's a 100% renewable opportunity, and this is the lowest price for solar that Energy New England has seen. It's down. It's competitive after you factor in the REC value. It's competitive with natural gas at this point. The project has been green-lighted. We are receiving about 6.5% of the total production, which is going to be about 2% of our total portfolio supply. And I believe it is scheduled to go online in 2023.
Clint, where's the gravel pit?
I believe it's in New Hampshire.
Right. So we're excited about that. Obviously, locally, the landfill solar project is continuing. In our meeting with the Board of Selectmen, they're anxious and enthusiastic about us continuing to look for solar opportunities in Danvers, which we're going to continue to do. Right now, the two priorities are the landfill, then the Smith School. Obviously we know the Smith School is being prepared with some conduit chases and structure and such to have solar panels on the top of Smith School. The selectmen also encouraged us to talk to the mall about, is there an opportunity on the mall parking lots and their green space down there to have a solar farm? So part of the Northland easement talk, the negotiations that we have with the mall that Mark mentioned, we'll continue solar discussions with the mall and see if there's any opportunities there. We talked to the mall a number of years ago and they were not interested. So we'll see. We'll bring that back up again. The other program I did, you may have seen our social media posts, and we have it on our website as part of the demand response and that whole program. Clinton, the staff, and Jeff Ellie have come up with the new Thermostat rebate program. And Clint, if you could just mention a couple words about that quickly.
Sure. Yes. We kind of shifted our residential peak savings program that we've been running for the last few years to go to a more active program wherein residential customers can, if they already have a Nest thermostat or a smart thermostat, they can participate. And if they don't have one, we offer a $60 rebate to go purchase one. And then you get an additional $50 rebate for enrolling in the program. And if you are once enrolled in the program at the end of our peak season, customers will receive an additional $20 credit towards their bill. The portal went live last week. We're already seeing people logging in and enrolling, which is very encouraging. And yeah, we're excited about the program. Have some real quantifiable data we can look at, that we can really assess how we're able to kind of manage our peaks and get the residents to participate in that.
Thank you, Clint. And that's what we had for a summary, Mr. Chairman, today.
Thank you, David. Again, I will go by roll call to see if there are any questions or comments for David. Mike?
Yeah, I don't know, Dave, if you know the answer to this already, but and if not, maybe we can get it at the next meeting. How many of the surrounding communities that have municipal light use the base charge?
You know what, Mike, we haven't done a survey on that. That's a great idea. I'd want to do a survey to get up-to-date data on that, and we can get that answer for you. Very good question.
Okay. And the only other thing, more of a comment, is that gravel pit seems like a fantastic opportunity, and I'm glad we were able to get in on that. I think that's probably the first time that we've been able to look seriously at a solar opportunity that provided a legitimate, significant portion. I mean, 2% might not seem significant, but compared to the other ones that we've had in the past, that's certainly the most significant. So that's a great sign and a good opportunity for us. So I'm glad we're pursuing that. And that's it.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Eric, do you have any questions or comments for David?
I do, thank you. My first one is around base charge, and I think my common mantra is anytime we imagine making a change that would prompt consumers to ask questions, I think an infographic or anything that really simplifies the rationale and the pros and cons, et cetera. I just want to put that as David, you gave us a heads up. It's a shot over the bow. I want to also be proactive around the education, because that is always the question that comes up. Why, my wife grills me all the time, and I'm always going through my notes to find answers to information. So I just want to be proactive in the education side. And I think everyone is of this era. Schoolhouse Rock did a great job of taking complex things and making it simple. So I'll just throw that out there. My other question, really, I think, David, at a later date, I would very much be interested in talking about the alternative energy vision. 2% obviously sounds great. I see opportunities in solar sound really good, and I'd like to just kind of delve into that deeper.
Sure. One thing, actually, perhaps at the next meeting, we'll provide an update to the board also on the state has set guidelines for how much of our portfolio needs to be carbon free, how much needs to be renewable, and has set those goals for the next 20 years.
Okay.
Actually, we can put together a chart to show where we are on that. We've done it already in the past. It's time to do it again. Where we are and how we look to meet that, to meet those goals. We're ahead of the curve right now. As good news is we're ahead of the curve right now, but we're going to have to keep looking at them, just like you said, to make sure we keep up with the state renewable and carbon-free goals. But we'll put a chart together for you that'll help, and then have a discussion.
Great, thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Did I get a promotion?
I think so. We're going to double your pay, Mr. Chairman, Your Honor.
Yeah. Mike, you're muted. Whatever that good comment was, we missed it.
Mike was hollering, but I had him on mute, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, are we, I think both Mike and Eric are done, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right. David, I had a couple of questions just on follow-ups from things you mentioned last month. You mentioned a home energy assessment program through Energy New England being worked on. How's that coming?
So we are offering it now. I'm going to take Clint off of mute. See if Clint, have we gotten any takers on that program, Clint?
Yeah, so I think we've had close to a dozen of the remote audits that have been performed. And the feedback that we've been getting from Energy New England is that the people they're really happy with them. They're very thorough. And then, as I mentioned before, we now have that portal that some of the recommendations they make for more efficient lighting, or weather stripping or things like that, smart strips, you can actually secure through the portal now where you set up the initial audit. So it makes it just a lot simpler for people to kind of deploy the measures that are recommended. Yeah, but it is going very well.
Good, thank you, Clint. David, the next question I had, again, stuff you've mentioned in the past, how are our electric vehicle charging stations going? I know we're going to be monitoring those. Are we seeing increasing activity?
So we have them in place. We haven't seen much activity at them yet, Mr. Chairman. We also have held off on deploying our electric vehicle to town hall. We had planned on stationing our electric vehicle at town hall and have it for town employees' use. As part of code, we just made the decision to keep it parked down on Borough Street. We haven't done that piece yet. So that part of the program's on hold, and we probably should do some more advertising about our stations to get the use up.
Okay, thank you, David. Two other questions again from the past. How are things moving on the DPU rate case that was filed against us?
They had sent us a number of questions, which were due back in July. We did have to ask for an extension from June into July. Peter, Clint, staff, everyone worked hard to put a lot of audit material, old records of budgets and account line items. All of that material was submitted to the DEP. You can go on the DEP website and see everything that we've submitted. It was extensive, and now it's under review by the DPU.
Okay, thank you. The next one is the financial software that Peter and the team were working on.
Yeah, that one, because of the break in staffing, we haven't made a lot of progress on that over the last 2 months. So that one's essentially on hold right now.
Okay. All right. And I guess the last question I had, again, that would be kind of old business. Last month, it was reported that we were not going to do a temporary generator this year, and due to the high rental rate. I'm just curious, could we get kind of a summary of what that program did for us for the last, I don't even know how long it's going. It's been in place since I've been on the board, this is the third summer. But how did it just, the business case, how did it work out the early years? And I know our benefits were declining. And then what it looked like this year, which led to that decision. Just kind of a summary there, so we've got a good summary of that as we look to go ahead and perhaps think about getting our own permanent generator into place. Does that make sense as a request for you?
Absolutely. It's something that we already have and we can send out to the board. It's a chart that shows back when we started it, we had we had the option of almost, I think it was an 8-to-1 payback on the cost of the generator, which we did at the beginning. And then it went down to this year. I think it was going to be, even if we hit the peaks, was going to be like less than 1-to-1 payback on it. So the risks outweighed the reward. So we have that chart that we'll be able to get out to you guys. And separate from that is a chart looking at the permanent power generator costs and help us make that decision on that. So we'll get that out to the board. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I had for that report. And so that completes agenda item 7. And again, I was going to come back to public comments. Clint, have there been any comments, emails received during the course of the meeting?
Hold on, I need to take Clint off mute. Clint, you're now off mute.
Hey, Bill. Yeah, no comments have come in at this point.
Okay. If Stephanie would just note that in the minutes of the meeting that we did check a second time to see if there were any public comments, so that is recorded in the minutes.
Sure.
Okay,
No problem.
Thank you, Stephanie.
You're welcome.
That gets us to agenda item 8, board members' closing comments and correspondence. Again, we'll go by roll call. Mike?
I want to thank staff. I know this has probably it's really my first chance to do that. I wasn't able to be around in the June meeting. And I want to, again, thank them for everything they've done. Clearly, this has been probably the most challenging time that we've had as a municipality in, probably 50, 70 years. And, the fact that they've been able to keep us online. I think the number of complaints we've probably received from anybody, if any, have been next to zero. We faced a very difficult windstorm during this process. As far as I know, we had little to no outages. They've been able to weather the financial storm, and it seems like that we're in a better position than we probably would ever have imagined at this point. So I really do want to thank everybody that's been involved with that, and just say, that we hope that obviously we're going to reach a point sometime in the near future that we can move on from this and get back to, it's hard to believe that I miss seeing you, Bill, every month personally, but I do. I can't say that about Dave, but and the rest of you, yes, Dave, I don't know, but the rest of you, yes, I miss seeing
I got to
you
get Bill a tablet. Jeez.
But so yeah, that's really all I want to say is that keep up the good work, and let's hope that sometime soon we can all get together again in person.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Eric?
Sure, I just will echo that and just thank the team for all that they have done, and point out, as I troll my social media from time to time, I did come across a post that was ecstatic about the response from a power outage recently, and that the crew, really was thorough and quick and got things done, and that reflects what we have been seeing in our data. And I just wanted to share that. It's very nice to read that as someone who's aware of just how hard you all are working. So I wanted to share that and just say, we really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Eric. I think Dave and the team, I'm sure, also grateful. I would like to add my thanks to that as well. I mentioned at the last meeting, Mike, that I had happened to run into one of the linemen while I was out for a walk fairly early in the COVID crisis, and just stopped to talk to him. And it wasn't until the end of the conversation that I told him I was on the board, and I was just very impressed. Very professional person, presented himself well, very articulate, explained the safety protocols that we're going through. There was only one man on the truck as part of our COVID response. So I agree. The team, I think, has done a wonderful job keeping us going through this situation. And it looks like Peter and the business team are managing the finances extremely well as well. So I second and third the motions that the team is doing a great job. Having said that, I would like to now pick on something that is beginning to be an irritant with me. The pilot payment we make. I got the town budget book as part of this meeting's materials, and I went through that in some detail. The town is projecting its total local receipts to go up about $750,000, and it mentions that the big driver there is the increase in the pilot payment by Danvers Electric. So I looked at, I thought it was curious that it wouldn't also mention water and sewer. So I looked in the budget for water and sewer, and there is no payment for water and sewer to make a pilot payment. And since we are the two enterprise funds in the town, it seemed strange to me that one enterprise fund has a pretty significant pilot payment, $767,000 I think we're going to pay this year. And that's up about $200,000, and the other apparently is not required to make a payment in lieu of taxes. So that kind of begged the question, and let me just state, I do not think it is inappropriate for the town manager to request an increased payment. As stated at the time it was announced earlier this year, the payment has not been adjusted since 1995. And 25 years seems like, okay, I can understand an adjustment to the pilot. formula, which I believe is 0.25% of our income, our revenue. But it does raise the question of why do we pay it and why does water and sewer not? It also raises a question in my mind, what are other municipals doing, so that we would have some ability to say, yes, this is a reasonable request as the volunteer oversight board of Danvers Electric. And then the third question it raised in my mind is if we were not a enterprise fund of the town, what would we be paying in property tax? So that I can, as the board chairman, rest assured that in fact the pilot payment is a reasonable payment that the utility and thus our ratepayers have to pay to the town. So to summarize that, I would like to ask you, David, if you could have the organization do, and I don't want a huge amount of work, but what do other munis pay? What would be our property tax? And ask the question, why is it us and not the water and sewer? Those three questions. And I would like, if we could, at the next meeting, or if it's a little more work and it's 2 meetings, present something back to the board. And I've been asking for quite some time to see the memo that the town manager sent about increasing the pilot, and still waiting for that for 6 months now.
So, yes, we're aware that we wanted the memo summary that from the town manager that details, the increase and that. So we've asked for that again. Hopefully that will come shortly. On the water and sewer, both those enterprises do have a pilot. It's in the budget under the object line item 57804. The water pilot is $133,000 a year. The sewer pilot is $112,000 a year. So they do have those.
Apparently missed that.
Yeah, well, you can thank our business manager. He's the one that knows what it is. And so, I don't know. Eric and Mitchell could be right with me. We don't know where to find it, but Pete can tell us right where to find it. The sewer enterprise also is a far younger enterprise fund. The Danvers only adopted the true enterprise format, I think, about 6 years ago, approximately. So so first off, we need that memo from the town manager, describing his increase in the pilot and that such. We could definitely talk to the town assessor and get a property, an assessed value, and show you some of the numbers, what we would pay for our facilities and our poles in property taxes if we were taxed privately. We should be able to do that. And other municipalities that pay water and sewer pilot, we'll have to check that out. I think what we're going to find is that they're all over the map. How towns do water and sewer financing it varies drastically. I know many towns, even though they do a water and sewer bill, a lot of them don't cover even all the costs. Like they're charging a water bill, but the tax rate is still paying for some of those water and sewer costs. So it's whenever we do a rate analysis, it's always tough to compare apples and oranges. So we will do some checking on that and see if there's other towns that are paying in water and sewer pilots, like the small ones that we are paying right now. So yes, that's definitely something we can work on, Bill.
All right. I don't wish to put an undue burden on you, but it does seem like part of our board oversight that it's a reasonable question to ask to me. Okay.
I agree.
Okay, that's everything I have. I'll just throw it. I'll go by roll call again. Does anybody have anything else to add prior to us setting the next meeting? Mike?
Nope, thank you very much.
Eric?
No, thank you.
David?
No, I would ask Clint, any more public input, Clint?
We did have one wrong phone number, or a wrong number. So let Rich Souza know somebody's looking for him.
Okay,
No other public comments.
thank you, Clint.
Okay, Clint? Thank you, Clint. Mark? Okay.
Me and Dave were fighting back and forth on the mute. That was what was happening. Sorry about that. No, I have no other comments. Thank you.
Okay, Stephanie, any questions you have?
I'm good.
Thanks, Steph.
Okay, let's proceed to set the next meeting. David, you want to propose something?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I have a conflict on September 15th. I was looking at the 22nd or the 29th of September.
Well, as luck would have it, my schedule is fairly free.
Eric's shaking his head. We got to see you.
The 29th, I have a conflict, but the 22nd is free.
Excellent.
The 22nd works for me.
Okay, does anybody have an objection to the 22nd? Hearing none. Next meeting will be September 22nd at 8:30, and my presumption is this situation will remain the same and it will be another remote meeting. I do want to share one last thing with the team. I am going through a personal health issue. I'm probably going to have surgery to remove a kidney in September. I'm not sure yet when that's going to be. My expectation, it will be early to mid, so I think the 22nd would work for me. And if not, then obviously for the quorum, we would need both Mike and Eric to be in attendance. So at this point, I would expect that it would not interfere. Best guess. So that's it. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mike or Eric?
Second.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor by roll call? Mike?
Yes.
Eric?
Aye.
And Bill? Aye.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn passes unanimously. Thank you. Next, good meeting, efficient, prompt, and very informative. Thank you to the entire.
Thanks, Bill. Wish you the best.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Take care. Thanks.